People who work at Astronomer, how was work today? Story 1. I turned down an offer from them a couple of years ago. I'm regretting that a little today. I would have loved to lurk in their shitposting Slack channels today. Story 2. I looked them up and recognized one of the guys from the elevator at work and realized I work in the same building, lol. Usually I work from home, but I think I gotta go in to see the commotion and hear the elevator gossip. Story 3. You just know there was internal PR issuing orders about respecting the privacy of our teammates during these difficult times. Story 4. Lol, I thought the guy was an astronomer, not CEO of some company called Astronomer. That left me wondering. What? People know famous astronomers? Huh. Story 5. Just got back from Jamaica. Tan almost everywhere. Jan almost everywhere. He. Oh, diary, what a week. I had intimacy with my boss. Story 6. HR sucks. Young people reading this, do not ever trust them if they get you in a room and say something like, "This is a safe open space." Tell me how you're really feeling they are there to represent and protect the best interests of the employer, and only the employer. I learned this the hard way many years ago and have continued to see the same shoot over the last 20 years at many different companies. Do not trust them, ever. Toby and Michael's relationship on The Office was hilarious, but Michael was right. Story 7. Dude was rich enough to do something extravagant in private, and he does the most stupid thing. Even if it wasn't on Jumbotron, what if someone else sees them? Story 8. Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I tell ya, I got to plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here, that sort of thing was frowned upon. You know, 'cause I've worked in a lot of offices, and I tell ya, people do that all the time. Story 9. Imagine being married to a man for years, only to hop on the internet one day to find out he likes Coldplay. Story 10. Work was very awkward. The CEO sent out a company-wide email explaining that the topic was a personal matter and that he wouldn't be discussing it. However, he enforced a strict Coldplay music ban at the company. No Coldplay at the cafeteria, lounges, or even personal devices. Anyone caught humming Viva La Vida or Yellow would be immediately terminated. Source: Trust me, bro. Story 11. I worked at a place where they fired the CEO and the whole office cheered when the email hit. He had been a notorious lecher and was responsible for a couple of unsanctioned office relationships. Make no mistake, this is abuse of a power imbalance, and the board should have him packed out by EOD tomorrow. Probably the CPO too, because it doesn't look like she can credibly claim victimhood. Best to cut the situation immediately. If they don't, it won't be long before that proves to be a compound error. Answer: This is the only way. CEO, let's begin our Q1 finances review meeting. Everyone. CEO, who's going first? Everyone. What the fudge, dude? How can the board possibly expect people to go back to work like everything is normal? If these two had any integrity, they'd resign immediately. Their company has more than enough justification to shit-can them without any severance. At least leave trying to save a little dignity. Story 12. I don't work for Astronomer. However, when I worked at Highmark in Pittsburgh, something similar happened with the president of the company. CEO having an affair and it goes badly. Answer: The old CEO of Best Buy, Brian, got walked for the same with his admin. Not only was he married, but his wife was recovering from cancer. Total work of art. The next CEO was sleeping with somebody in leadership at a company where he held a board position. The current CEO was exposed for sleeping with one of the senior VPs she worked with for years, both of which were married. Anyway, the moral of the story here is don't work in retail because it's a nightmare, and Best Buy doesn't make great leadership decisions from moral standpoint. Story 13. HR been in meetings since sunrise. The projector's banned, and nobody's making eye contact in the break room. Rough day at the Constellation Corps. Story 14. The basic premise of human resources is that humans are a resource to be extracted, exploited, and discarded when no longer useful. HR is not there to protect the labor, just the company. Story 15. People that high up think they're untouchable. I mean, just look at how they made the decision to go out in public and embrace that intimately as well in an arena with thousands of functioning eyes. Some humbling was always coming, and I'm glad it did. Story 16. I am a former employee of Astronomer. I'm glad this finally came out. The CEO Andy Byron and Kristen Cabot have been dating for a while now. Everyone knows about this at the company, but no one can talk about it openly. I saw them kissing at one of the team parties, and when I shared this with my colleagues, I was told to shut and not talk about it to anyone. It's very apparent at work. They come in and leave work together. Story 17. If you read his apology letter, he was upset that he was caught in public and became an internet sensation without him giving permission. So, he's above the fray. Fudge you, dude. You got burned. Deal with it. Story 18. Byron heaped praise on Cabot in a November 2024 post about her appointment to the firm. Kristen's exceptional leadership and deep expertise in talent management, employee engagement, and scaling people strategies will be critical as we continue our rapid trajectory, he said. She is a proven leader at multiple growth stage companies, and her passion for fostering diverse, collaborative workplaces makes her a perfect fit for Astronomer. Plus, she has a great jerk. I might not have that last part exact. Story 19. I know someone who works there in sales. Normal day, apparently. They're a popular company in the niche they operate in. It is very funny, though. Story 20. If both of these people are still employed at this company at the end of the week, the board and the executive team have failed massively. Just embrace the facts and start cleaning up the mess. Unfortunately, what will happen is that there will be an astronomical amount of corporate speak, trying to obscure the obvious and trying to keep people from saying out loud what absolutely everyone is thinking. Story 21. Forget the camera shot, just the stupidity to go to a big public event like that. I live in New Jersey and used to travel to Florida a lot, and the number of times while on vacation, 1,000 miles away, and I bumped into someone from back home, "Hey, Margaritaville, how you doing?" is oddly high. So going to a concert in your town with thousands walking past is just ridiculous and reason enough to fire them. Story 22. I worked at a company where the head of HR was banging the married head of another department. It took no time for it to become an open secret. It seems everyone knew except his wife until she found out. Then the shoot truly hit the fan. In the end, everyone gets caught. Don't cheat, it's not worth it. Story 23. CPO has to step down at this point. Should the CEO also? Maybe. But having worked in tech, he won't. And it won't be brought up at work again, except on Slack channels that Astronomer employees think aren't being monitored by whoever they replace her with. Story 24. I saw Andy in the elevator. I told him, "Dude, all you had to do was smile and wave. No one watches anyone shoot concert TikTok videos. In the whole wide world, not a single person would have seen the video if you hadn't dived for cover." His reply will stick with me for life. He said, "Who the fudge are you and how the fudge did you get in my private elevator?" Story 25. I worked for a company that got rid of its entire HR department and changed it to a personnel lady that sorted out issues we had. From a team of 10 to one kind old lady who happened to be the boss's wife. The system worked. Story 26. I can't help to think of all the CEO quo affairs that must be currently going on. You just know all of those people are freaking TF out. Story 27. I don't work at Astronomer, but when I heard that his wife removed his last name on her Facebook profile, that made me smile. Story 28. I'd post the HR policy on dating, and then I'd post the HR policy on behavior that could be subject to blackmail. And then I'd ask HR to whom those policies apply, and I'd dare them to fire me for asking. Web 2025. Story 29. I bet anything that at the end of the day she is going to take the fall for this, and they will come up with a bullshit excuse about how valuable he is to the company. Tale as old as time. Story 30. I'm an astronomer, and came to this to see if perhaps I'd missed something important to astronomers. But even after reading a bunch of these comments, I have never been more confused. WTH? Story 31. I told my wife that if I was ever going to throw our life together away, I'd make sure it was a better band than Coldplay preforming. Story 32. Hey, thanks for asking. Not too well since I've been caught with my affair partner at the Coldplay concert. We both work at the company and I am her higher up, but she's in HR, so I'm sure we'll deal with it somehow. Story 33. I feel like it would have almost been better if they didn't react the way they did, as that's what made it viral. If they leaned over and kissed each other, it would have blocked their faces and people would have just thought it was a kiss cam. Story 34. I'm imagining myself in this situation. My wife would be devastated. I mean, I can't imagine a worse way for her to find out I was a fan of Coldplay. Story 35. As someone who works in HR and had reached out to a former colleague for a role at Astronomer, I got ghosted after sending my resume and following up. Thank God. Talk about dodging a bullet. Story 36. I worked for a company where the married COO was having an affair with an intern who was the kid of one of the board members. It all came out when the intern tried to blackmail the COO. Both were gone that day. The intern was banned from ever returning to the company. The COO got another COO gig fairly quickly. Story 37. Not my work, but it fits. So let me get this straight. The CEO of a company called Astronomer, whose whole job is to launch data pipelines into the stratosphere, can't even keep his own rocket out of HR's orbit long enough to survive a Coldplay concert. This man, Andy Byron, goes to a concert, ends up on the kiss cam, and suddenly we're in a Greek tragedy. You'd think he was caught launching nukes, but no, he was launching his lips at his chief people officer. That's right, the woman responsible for professional behavior at work. The irony is so thick you could spread it on a compliance policy and serve it to the board. Then, a fake apology starts going around online, quoting Coldplay lyrics. Coldplay lyrics. If your scandal ends in lights will guide you home, you're not sorry, you're delirious. Meanwhile, the company scrambles to say, oh no, that's not our CEO's real apology. And I'm like, of course it's not. The real one's probably trapped in the same black hole as their HR standards. And let's not forget, Astronomer makes software to orchestrate data across the enterprise. Well, congratulations. You've successfully orchestrated a public relations supernova. I haven't seen this many. Internal systems crash since FTX. The man's wife drops his last name on Facebook faster than you can say organizational ethics, and I don't blame her. The only thing more broken than this man's marriage is his understanding of what a stadium camera does. Let me say it clearly. I don't care who you're kissing. But if you're the CEO and the HR chief, and you're playing tonsil hockey on a 100-foot screen while your employees are watching from home, wondering if they still have health insurance, you deserve every meme you get. Astronomer wanted to reach for the stars. Instead, they tripped over their own. Zipper and fell face first into a Coldplay concert, and now the only thing orbiting this company is scandal. Story 38. My old company's CEO did something similar. Well, not being called out by Coldplay in front of thousands and go viral for cheating, but made a statement that made us internet infamous for a couple of weeks. Employees were told internally to clam shut, and the CEO gave an half-hearted apology and waited for shoot to blow over. On Team Blind was a different question, though. Story 39. My previous workplace has the same drama between the general manager and HR lady. Then she get pregnant with the GM, and he sent her to abortion clinic. Both of them were married. She later has to resign, and the GM still in his position. Fudge this kind of people. Fortunately, I'm far from there. Story 40. This whole mix-up is hilarious. Imagine going to work thinking you're surrounded by stargazers, only to realize it's just a tech company. The elevator gossip must be next-level awkward now. Also, shout out to the person who thought they were about to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson in the break room. Story 41. Interestingly enough, I have blamed Coldplay for all the bad things that have happened in my life too. Story 42. I work on a team that primarily uses the open-source version of the product Astronomer sells. Not gonna lie, there were some good jokes going around. Story 43. The elevator ride this AM must have been awkward, but you know there's one Astronomer employee that didn't see the news. Bob. Good morning, Andy. Glad I caught you on the lift. Hey, we should go over those TPS reports before lunch so we can game plan for the conference. Andy. Yes, sounds good. Bob. Oh, BTW, how was the Coldplay concert last night? Other passengers. Story 44. Astronomer engineer here. Lurking our channels has been quite amusing. Culture here is casual and very light-hearted, so memes are being shared all around, and most of us are just laughing about it. I've gotten so many texts and memes sent from my friends because they know I'm part of Astronomer. In the meantime, Pete is our interim CEO and work is as usual. I'm sure he'll fill us in when the board decides what happens next. Story 45. Oh, you know, it was pretty much BAU at Astronomer, with a little extra talk about the CEO banging the CPO. Story 46. Ah ha ha. When I saw the video and the titles, I thought the guy was an actual astronomer. I didn't understand why couldn't an astronomer have an affair. I need to start watching regular TV. Story 47. I figured this was one of those kinds of companies where everyone's an executive and there are no employees, and they'll all jump ship as soon as they can dump their stock. Story 48. I gotta believe getting called out cheating on your wife put a huge wet blankie on his Coldplay date. Story 49. Suppose I should just Google the background, as the comments aren't helping much with context. What happened at the Coldplay concert? On Wednesday, footage from a Coldplay concert in Massachusetts went viral after the Jumbotron displayed a couple comfortably watching the concert. A man with his arms around a woman. As soon as the pair notice that they are being filmed, they startle, moving away and hiding their faces from the camera. The dramatic reaction earned live commentary from Coldplay's lead singer, Chris Martin, who joked, "Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy." After the footage was posted online, spreading through TikTok, X, Twitter, and Instagram, the pair were identified as Astronomer CEO Andy Byron and the company's HR chief, Kristen Cabot. Unfortunately for the two, both became internet celebrities overnight, as the internet began to dig deeper into the story and make memes. Story 50. First off, who even heard about this company until today? This screams like a weird marketing campaign to get the company's name out in public. Why do I get the feeling this is a shoot AI startup? Story 51. Probably like, "Oh look, another exploding galaxy. Neat. While I'm over here celebrating when I find matching socks." Story 52. If they had just kept their cool, it would have been over in a second, and I doubt any spouse or anybody else would ever have found out about it. Oh well. Story 53. I'm genuinely so curious about what their customer service inbox looks like now. I work for a global company as one of the only consumer support specialists. Yes, I talk to a lot of people, LOL. And when the Trump tariffs happened, I swear everyone from Canada started sending us dislike emails for being a US-based company. We didn't want the tariffs either. Story 54. HR is performing a job function. The idea that any of the cogs in the HR machine are above doing the shoot they make other people get in trouble for is super naive, LOL. Story 55. I love the way the CEO is blaming Coldplay or outing his affair, saying that they invaded his privacy at a public gig with his squeeze. I mean, you can't make this shoot up. Story 56. What's up with the shady friend who thinks it's all so funny? With friends like that, who needs enemies? Story 57. Today I discovered what might be a new variable star, which is exciting until you realize I now have to spend the next 6 months documenting its behavior patterns. Story 58. BTW, these cheating clowns, run an AI company valued in the billions. I'm not one to try to time the market, but this seems as good a sign of bullshit valuations as any to get out. I'm sure they would never lie to potential customers. Story 59. This isn't me being dumb, but what the heck even is? Astronomer, is that the long-lost cousin of some who actively watches constellations or some irrelevant company name? Story 60. It's between him and his wife. If he makes stockholders wealthy, nobody cares where he puts his male body part. Story 61. I feel like it's a marketing. A few minutes ago, I didn't know that company exists. Now millions of people know about them. Anyways, both the CEO and CPO are marketing genius. Story 62. I worked for a company where head of HR was an alcoholic. She would also harass male employees at the corporate parties. Acted like nothing happened next morning. Story 63. Is anyone able to confirm the rumor that there is only one female working for the company? Debating it with a friend, and it sounds like absolute horseshoot. Story 64. I'm pretty sure most employees have been instructed not to talk about it anywhere. Edit. This comes from my experience. When I worked for a company that had an issue, we were assembled to a meeting and told if anyone asks us questions, we are to reply, "No comment." Story 65. It's really not that big of a deal. All you bottom feeders are dining on the drama of someone you didn't even know existed until today. We went to the office, we did our jobs, we minded our own fudge business, and then we went home. What our CEO does in his own time is none of our business. So he's schnoodling with some girl. As long as he does his job well and pays my salary on time, I really don't care.